All right, so let's keep on going in the Americas. Let's go to Mesoamerica. We just left South America, so we're going to move our way north into Mesoamerica. So you have the Toltecs in Mesoamerica. They're going to be a combination of migrant groups, farmers from the north, and refugees from the south fleeing the strife that followed Teotihuacan's demise. So we're going to see as some of these smaller empires start to fall, it's going to lead people to flee and go into and join other empires. All right, so we're going to see these groups are going to settle northwest of where Teotihuacan is going to be located. So they're going to have an economy that's going to rely on maize or corn-based economy and selling those things and using corn for different products. Merchants are going to provide status goods. So the more money you have, the more status goods you're able to get. Today we would see a status good like a flat screen TV or an iPad or an iPhone or something that's kind of, up there in quality and in class. And so we're also going to see the city of Tula. Tula is going to be the capital, and it's going to be the commercial hub, and the ceremonial center. So we're like in other places, we're going to see temples made of giant pyramids. So maybe not pyramids, but in other places, there's going to be a state-sponsored backing of creating religious structures. So whether those be mosques or temples or whatever you want to call churches and things like that. So we're going to see ball courts for real and ritual sports. So they're going to have more of a society that's not based in Christianity. It's based in different gods so that they can see like the wind god, the water god, the animal god, the god that provides abundance and provides good rain and things like that. Okay. And so that city is going to have about 60,000 people at its peak. So it's going to be double what the Chimu Empire has, but it's still not nearly close to the 100 million people that China currently has during the same exact time period. All right, moving up. So we're going to talk about Cahokia, the Cahokians in North America. So we talked about the Chimu Empire in South America. We talked about the Toltecs in Mesoamerica. And now we're talking about the Cahokians in North America. So the Cahokia is going to be the largest city in Cahokia is going to be the largest city in North America. And it's only going to have 15,000 people. So we have 30,000 in the Chimu Empire, 60 in Mesoamerica, and then 15,000 in North America. So not that many people, especially when you're looking at 100 million people in China during this exact same time period. So farmers and hunters settled there are given resources and access to trade. So if you move there, you're given a chance to actually thrive and grow and develop and things like that. So people are also going to be attracted by its very, very fertile soil and its woodlands for fuel and for game. And then also, because you're by the Mississippi River, you can go on and trade up the river. And the river goes from the Gulf of Mexico all the way to the Great Lakes towards Canada. All right, so we're going to see it's going to become a commercial center for regional and long distance trade. And we're going to see landscape dominated by mounds or mound people. So we don't ever hear about the pyramids in North America, but there are in fact pyramids in North America. They're going to be not so much the pyramids that we know of, like in Egypt or in South America, or excuse me, in Mesoamerica, where the pyramids are kind of like in structures. Well, here in North America, we're going to have mound people who build up mounds, and those mounds are going to be what they use to kind of talk to their gods or things like that. So some mounds that we know of in the U.S., Illinois has a bunch of mounds, and the same thing with the state of Georgia. There are going to be a lot of mounds there as well. Both of those places are adjacent to the Mississippi River, so that would fit the culture of the time period. But the city is going to outgrow its environment as it grows. It's not going to have enough resources to take care of all the citizens that are there. Okay, so you're going to have a issue with the soil, issue with over deforestation issues, things like that. Okay, and plus the rivers are smaller and they're not really able to do lots of trading in those regions. So Cahokia represents the growing network of trade and migration across North America. So as it develops, as it changes, there's going to be a lot more of it, but still much smaller in scale than what's happening in Afro-Eurasia. Okay. So two forces contributed to the greater integration of sub-Saharan Africa and the Americas from 1000 to 1300. commercial exchange, so wanting to sell things, and then urbanization, the development of cities. So as there's more people, there's now more cities, which means you have more developments in culture and society, which means you have to now create laws to govern these people, which means you have to have an economic system to take care of these people. You have to have so many other systems that go from the development and the building and creation of cities. All right, so we're going to see the commercial hubs in Mesoamerica and North America. And you can see the two of them that are there. One is going to be close to modern day Texas, Mexico, in that area. And then the other one is going to be in modern day Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, in that region, Tennessee, and so on and so forth. And they're going to be in areas that are pretty much dominated by rivers, even though they're going to be smaller rivers than in other parts of the world. So also down here at the bottom, where in Mesoamerica, you can kind of see the Toltec expansion or the Toltec influence and how it's going to move around. Okay. And also looking at some of the different sea routes that are there, and then also some of the sites and areas that are there as well. Okay. And then the peach colored lines are going to be your Mayan trade routes. So you're going to see all of those trade routes are going to kind of flow in the similar areas. Definitely different ways they do it, probably more efficient as time goes on, but so on and so forth. All right, so who are the Mongols? So the Mongol transformation of Afro-Eurasia. So who are the Mongols? Okay, they're going to be forest and prairie people living on the steppe. Their society is going to resemble a perpetual standing army. So they're always going to be ready to go to fight, ready to go to battle, ready to fight. They're going to be well-disciplined units. They're going to have well-disciplined units with commanders chosen for skill. They're going to use heavy compound bows and were consummate archers. So compound bows, you're able to pull a trigger and fire that versus having to pull back your bowstring and fire that way. So it makes you much more accurate. They're going to ride small and sturdy horses, and they're going to be expert horsemen. They are nomadic, and they're going to rotate mounts, and they're going to travel about 70 miles per day on horse. So the best way I can kind of give you guys a description of the Mongols and when they're coming at you. This is no offense to any of you, so I know somebody's going to be offended by it, but it is what it is. Such is life. So some of y'all ever have silver teeth when you were growing up? Like, you know, like your whole front grill was like all silver. Okay. So I want you to imagine this. So if like 20 kids who had nothing but silver teeth ran directly at you, what would you do? I hope you would run. Okay. And that's what a lot of people did when they interacted with the Mongols. We're going to call the Mongols like the silver teeth kids in history. So you see them, you're going to be like, you come over here. Oh, I got to go. Bye. Okay. And that's what's going to happen throughout Mongol history. All right. And they're going to solidify their conquest by extending kinship networks. That's a fancy way of saying they're going to have babies wherever they go. So they're going to conquer an area and then create families in that area. One way we can totally see the dominance of Mongol rule is that it's believed, there's an estimate that 25% of the world's population today, so over 1 billion people, so 25% of the world's population today has Genghis Khan's bloodline. They did a lot of spreading their kinship bonds after conquering. Okay. All right. So they're going to, also women are going to be very vital to the networks. They're going to seal alliances in exchange by exchanging daughters in marriage. So once again, those kinship bonds are going to be everything. And they're also going to be responsible for child rearing, shearing of animals, milking of those animals, and processing the pelts of those animals. And women are also going to take part in battle. All right, we're in our last few slides, finally. So the Mongol Empire transformation is going to be continued. So conquest and empire. The Mongols need for grazing land contribute to the desire to conquest. So they're looking for more land for their animals to graze on. So they're going to take over more area. That makes more sense, right? Hey, I have a lot of horses. I have a lot of people or cattle that need land. I'm going to conquer it all so my animals can have that. And we're going to see that same kind of philosophy and theory is going to be used later on in history when Hitler tries to expand and take over most of Europe because he needs more land for the German people. Okay. All right, and so we're going to see that they're going to depend on settled people for grain and goods. So even though the Mongols are going to be nomadic, when they conquer areas, they're going to be really reliant on the people who are already settled there for kind of taking care of them, giving them the food and the grains that they actually need, and the goods too. So the animal skins or the cotton or whatever it is. So they're going to first expansionist forays follow caravan routes. So as they try to expand and take over areas, they're going to follow the trade routes. They're going to go out there and be like, wow, this is nice. I would like this for myself. Thank you. All right. And so they're going to begin their expansion in 1206 under united clusters of tribes. And they're going to choose Genghis Khan as their supreme ruler. Okay. So Genghis Khan just means supreme ruler. So Genghis is going to launch a series of conquests southwards across the Great Wall of China and westwards to Afghan and Persia. Walls don't work. You know how we know walls don't work? Because Genghis, he crawled over the Great Wall of China. Another way we know the Great Wall of China doesn't work, people take photos in front of it all the time. If it's meant to keep out outsiders, why are these outsiders like, oh my God, selfie? Okay. All right, so they're going to expand south. They're going to go into China, and then they're also going to go southwest and go towards the Middle East and go into Afghanistan, and Persia. They're also going to invade Korea, so they're going to go northeast a little bit more, and invade Korea. The armies of Genghis' son are going to reach the Pacific Ocean and the Adriatic Sea. And they're going to build a realm that touches all four of Afro-Eurasia's main worlds. So that Chinese world, that Islamic world, the Indian world, as well as the European world are in some way, in some capacity, going to be influenced by the Mongol Empire. Mongols in Abbasid Baghdad. So coming from the steppes, the Mongols set sight on all of Asia. They were like, we're up here and we want to look down and take over everything. So we're going to see Möngke Khan is going to be the grandson of Genghis Khan. He's going to order the invasions. He's going to tell his brother, Hagalu, he's going to order him to take western territories of Iran, of Syria, of Egypt, of Byzantium, and of Armenia. Okay, so he's going to order his brother to take over those areas. His other brother, Kublai Khan, is going to be appointed to take over China, Tibet, and northern India. Okay, so once again, Möngke's brother, Hulagu, encountered a feeble foe in Baghdad's Caliph in 1258. So it's going to be easy work for him to take over this because they're really organized. And the Mongols are those silver-teeth kids who are coming at you, ready to take over. So Baghdad's going to be a shadow of its former self. So one Islamic kingdom is going to fall and be taken over by another Islamic kingdom. So there's going to be a lot of slaughtering. And about 200,000 soldiers are going to face just 10,000 horsemen. So the Mongols are going to literally be so far superior that they're going to be outnumbered by a lot and still be able to dominate and take over large areas. So the Abbasid Caliph is also going to be killed. And so after that, Syria is going to be next, and the Mongols continued on with slaughtering of Muslims. So we can see in this map here, here's the Mongol campaigns and conquests for 100 years between 1200 and 1300. And we see them moving in numerous directions. So they're going to start off right there north of China in Asia, okay, so in the east, and they're going to drop down south, and they're also going to move back west and into numerous other places. So Mongols in China. So Genghis Khan defeated the Jin army in northern China. His grandsons. All right, so Genghis Khan's grandsons, Kublai Kai, is going to seize southern China from the Song dynasty. Hangzhou is going to be the last Song capital, and it's going to fall in 1276. So a female empress, so Empress Dowager, and Hangzhou were treated well by the Mongols. Okay, so they're not going to be killed and abused in other places, in the same way other places were. So next up, when Marco Polo visits in 1280 and Ibn Battuta in the 1340s, it was still one of the greatest cities in the world. So even though it had been taken over by the Mongol Empire, it still was allowed to continue on with its trading culture. And when you have a lot of trading, that means you have a lot more culture, art, things like that. Okay, so by 1280, the Mongols had established the Yuan dynasty. So between 1280 and 1368, with a new capital of Dadu in present-day Beijing. They're going to change the political and social landscapes. So once again, the Chinese are very, 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 very much about not changing culture and not allowing barbarians' ideas or those different people's ideas to come in. So Chinese elites are going to govern themselves locally. So even though we have a Mongol-dominated area, the Chinese elites are still going to control those local areas. And so outsiders ran the central dynastic polity and collected taxes for the Mongols. So the Mongols are bringing in tax money from the Chinese people, and they're going to use some outsiders to do that. So once again, people who are not from China are going to be the ones who are dominating and controlling in China. And I can let you know now, that's not going to last for a very long time, because that's just not Chinese society and Chinese culture. All right, so Southeast Asia is also going to be walloped or hurt by the Mongol conquest. So they're just going to be they're going to be attacked really rapidly and not be able to stop anything that's happening to them. So we're going to see the Mongols are going to conquer the states of Yunnan and Burma. They're just going to take over as many places as they actually can. And portions of mainland Southeast Asia become part of the Mongol Empire and were eventually going to be annexed into China for the first time. So parts of Southeast Asia that are still attached to Asia, that are non-island nations, are going to be taken over by the Mongols and eventually annexed or given to the Chinese. And we're going to see an unsuccessful attempt by the Mongols to invade China, and it's not going to work. Okay. They're also going to unsuccessfully try to go into Russia during the winter, but anyone knows that you don't invade Russia in the winter because it's too cold and you're never going to be prepared. Okay. So the Mongols are going to reshape Afro-Eurasian social landscape, facilitate trade, and interconnectedness. So we're going to see that Islam is never again going to be a unifying authority like the Caliphate or a powerful center like Baghdad, but China too was going to be divided and changed by Mongols' introduction of Persian, Islamic, and Byzantine influences into Chinese architecture, art, science, and medicine. So we're going to see that syncretism or a mixture of cultures coming in with the Mongols coming in. And finally, for our conclusion, trade and migration across long distances made Afro-Eurasia prosper and more integrated. At the center of Afro-Eurasia, Islam was firmly established, remembering that Islam is one of the world's spheres, but it also has connection to the other three world spheres. So India is going to become a commercial crossroads. It makes sense because India is a peninsula and it's located smack dab in Afro-Eurasia. It's not very far from Africa. It's not very far from Europe. It's attached to Asia. So it makes a perfect place for a commercial crossroads. China is going to boom and it's going to pour its manufacturers into trading networks. So China's going to see very quickly that if we produce more products, people will buy them. That's more money for us. So they're going to focus on manufacturing. Okay. So Christian Europe has two centers at Rome and then Constantinople, which are both going to be at war with Islam. So once again, the Roman world and Constantinople, the Byzantine Empire, they're going to both be at war with Islam because Christianity and Islam are beefing. All right, trade and migration in sub-Saharan Africa and the Americas. So we're going to see a lesser degree of integration than in Afro-Eurasia. There's going to be less trading and less migration happening in sub-Saharan Africa and in the Americas. Part of that's due to population. Those areas, Africa has a large population, but the Americas do not have a large population. They lack a fluvial or an artery river that allows them to move their goods around. So African cultures are going to flourish with exposure to commercial energy of trade. So they're going to have more people looking to buy their goods, their supplies, looking for their slaves, their gold, things like that. And finally, we have America is going to build great centers of trade and culture with respect to size. They're going to be smaller, but they're still, for America, they're going to be great centers of trade and of culture. Okay. And the last slide, by the 1300s, the Afro-Eurasian regional world was interconnected by trade, migration, and conflict. The Mongol invasion added interconnectedness once they controlled the vast territories of Afro-Eurasia. So we have areas that were regionally interconnected, and then the Mongols come over and further connect those areas and bring in a mixing of cultures. So we're going to see an increase in interconnectivity and a cross-cultural exchange. And by the time the Mongol Empire arose, the regions of the world became those that we now recognize as the cultural spheres of the modern world. So by the time the Mongol Empire comes together, about 800 years ago, we are already seeing the development of the spheres that we still know of today, including India, Europe, and China. All right, that is it for chapter 10. Okay, so I hope you guys have enjoyed watching the videos, and I will see you guys in class. Have a great one. Bye.